Well, hello and welcome back to the Tao Manifesting Tarot. Thank you for being here. It is the most unusual tarot experience on the internet or almost anywhere else, and it's because I go for reality and I combine ingredients to make the message extra special. Let's talk about the first part. This is a tarot reading that is designed to increase your ability to manifest, your ability to create inside of your own mind, not from a desktop, laptop, smartphone, AI, any of that. If you start to take in what is outside and bring it into you, the energy is reversed to what it should be. You should be developing it inside you, the pictures, the stories, sending them outward. That's the positive direction of manifesting. We negatively manifest, meaning that we take in the stuff from the outside and use that to determine what our future is. That weakens us, that stupefies us, that makes us less creative and intelligent. That's the way it's designed. John D. Rockefeller said, I want a workforce that's dumb. I don't want them to think, I want them stupid. Just smart enough to operate the equipment, but otherwise they can't think for themselves. And so far he's been doing a pretty good job. So that's step one. The second thing is that I don't use any kind of rainbow messages or unicorns or fantasy or some magical energy wave from the universe and it's coming in and it's affecting everything and it's changing. These people are making shit up. Most of the people who do tarot readings, who do astrology readings, are telling you what they think you want to hear, not what they think you need to know based on the information. No fantasy here. We focus on the human kryptonite. Manifesting is the key. Today's manifesting tarot theme is the boring basics or chop wood. This is the stuff in our lives that we know we have to do. It's essential, but God, man, it's boring. It's tedious. I don't want to have to do that again, but it's essential because that's the basis for everything else. The boring basics. So that's the message. Chop wood, get down to business. Don't fool around. You know what needs to be done. So, in a nutshell, today's tarot frequency is our destination. That's why this is a tarot reading. Tarot is the science of potential, your potential. But I also bring in numerology and astrology. I've done them for 50 years, tarot for 20. I combine them. The astrology, numerology, because they're the science of cycles. Cycles repeat, 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 which is why human history keeps repeating and we never learn. Of course, that's part of chopping wood. That's part of the boring basics. Why do I have to learn? They didn't know anything back then. Yeah, they knew it. They went through the human experience. Different ways? Yes. But they went through it. And maybe it's time we pay attention. Maybe it's time. Maybe we'll get it. In fact, we have to get it. If we don't get it, we're in deep shit like yesterday. So, the numerology, the astrology, that's the map to the tarot energy. Now, before I get too involved, we're going to begin, by the way, with the astrology numerology. You'll see why in a minute. Let me just remind you that I do have an email. I've cleaned up all, I got 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever the hell I had, and really wasn't paying attention to any of them. So now it's down to one, tau-tarot at proton.me, tau-tarot at proton.me. Please use it. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Tell me I'm full of crap. Doesn't make any difference. It's communication. You're the reason I'm doing this. Believe me, my ego gains nothing from doing this. What I'm trying to do is reach out to get you to think outside the box. That's critical right now. It's essential right now. It is the boring basics right now. So that's tau-tarot at proton.me. All righty, let's get to it. Here's the astrology, the astrologic, I call it. Since, oh boy, what is it, September? Probably July would make sense. I have been working on something going through American history via astrological energy. Remember, I said that astrology, numerology are the science of cycles. Well, those cycles help determine how the tarot energy is going to be used. You get the same tarot reading 100 years ago as you would get today, but the way it expresses itself, the way you're able to utilize it, very different. Very different. And so that's why I use the astrology. So a couple of months ago, I decided, next year, July 4th, 2026, is going to be the 250th anniversary of the United States of America. So why don't we look into the history of America? And what I came up with is the conquest of America, because that's what it's been. Since 1492, the people who have the money have been trying to mess with America, the colonies. They were able to succeed because the Rothschilds and probably a few other families started up something called the Bank of England. It had nothing to do with the King or Queen of England. It was a separate entity, but the king needed money for war. What else is new? So they gave him the money for war, but they said, hey, we want to start our own private bank, but we want to use this name, the Bank of England. You'll have nothing to do with it. You could be a shareholder if you want, but you have nothing to do with it. He said, sure, he didn't care. He just wanted the money. So at that point, they went to conquer the colonies, and the colonists said no for a whole variety of reasons, partly because of the bankers themselves. They were squeezing the colonists, taxation, prices for things, and they were unhappy. The colonists were unhappy. So after the Revolutionary War, they started up Wall Street. Believe me, it was funded by the European Jewish bankers. And then, to add insult to injury, of course, they had the first Bank of America, or United States, something like that. Had a 20-year run, 20-year lease. At the end of that, they wanted to do another 20-year lease. It got bollocksed up a little bit, but eventually, after a little unwinding, they got the second Bank of the United States up and running. That went 20 years. At the end of that 20 years, President Andrew Jackson said, you know what? I've had two sessions to look at the Bank of America. It's bullshit. We're not going any farther with it. We're stopping it right now. We're going to form our own bank here in the United States. Well, Jewish bankers from Europe said, no, you're not. They tried to assassinate him. They failed. Abraham Lincoln saw the same thing. They succeeded in assassinating him. William McKinley, same thing. They went on. In 1933, they tried to overthrow Franklin Delano Roosevelt, but were saved by a U.S. Marine Corps hero, Smedley Butler. But they weren't done yet. They weren't done. Every war that the United States has ever been in, every recession, every depression, has been impacted by those same bankers. At first, they were strictly European Jewish bankers, but when they got here in the United States, they kind of modified a little bit, but still the power was the same. Name has changed, but the power still remained the same. So we get into setting up the Fed, which meant that a couple of people on the Titanic, rich people on the Titanic, had to die. That's why you sunk the whole ship, just to get rid of 4, 5, maybe 6 influential people because they were in the way of this bank idea. They got rid of them. They started up the Federal Reserve almost immediately. About a year later, they got part of their plan taken care of again with the tax. So they set up the bank, they set up the tax, they let women vote, encourage women to vote and to work. Why? Because you double the workforce, you double the income tax. That supplies the Fed. Then they get us into World War I. Doesn't turn out the way they want. So they take a breather. The roaring 20s just goes crazy on the stock market. Americans invest, lose tons of money. We go into a depression and we find ourselves where we are today with the reading 1935 to 1940. We are experiencing a depression, the worst that we have yet suffered, the Dust Bowl, because the farming stuff just went to shits. So it really became empty land. It was horrendous. We were hungry. We were poor. There were rumbles of war. Basically, the banks had set up huge social change. And that change was Americans had to adjust to constant chaos. Up until this point, there could be periods of peace, tranquility. Not anymore. Not anymore. They were going to roll it out. No food, no money, war. They were going to throw the trifecta at us. So Americans had to adjust to constant chaos. Astrologically, we had Jupiter and Pluto in an interesting combination to one another, and we had Uranus and Neptune in an interesting combination to one another. The Jupiter Pluto kind of put citizens versus the government, and at the same time, the Uranus Neptune situation made us rush to utopia. So, again, this is part of this constant chaos thing. Tremendous pressure on citizens with the possibility of maybe much better times ahead. You just had to squeeze through the needle. And that's what gave the bankers the advantage at that point. That's exactly what they wanted. So 1935 to 1940 was tough, real tough. It was going to get tougher. But this was simply preparation for what stood ahead, just the way the bankers wanted. Let's go to the meme for today. I have 4 Whitney Webb memes, all of them basically saying the same thing. You know what? We need to simplify our life. And she says it. I've said this many a times, and it's interesting that she came up with it. We should probably start living like the Amish. You go, oh, wait a minute. I don't want to do that kind of stuff, man. That stuff's not fun. That stuff is boring. The Amish are boring. Yeah, but they're healthy. They're prosperous. They're happy. They're at peace. Oh, they got to put up with shit because they're in the middle of the United States. But beyond that, as a people, they're in very, very, very good shape. They lead a very simple, basic life, very boring life. But Whitney Webb says maybe that's what we should be doing. We should start producing our own stuff on our own level. Don't worry about national government. Don't worry about international. Take a city, a township, take a county, a state. Do it on an individual, small basis. Support yourself, just like the Amish do. That's the only way you're going to have independence. If you are expecting Uncle Sam to take care of you, you forgot that Uncle Sam is incestuous. Good news from Whitney Webb. Let's move on to the link, the missing link. This from Thomas Sowell. He says one of the most important reasons for studying history is that virtually every stupid idea that is in vogue today has been tried before and was a failure, time and again. That's why the astrology and the numerology, remember I said, history of or science of cycles, we keep repeating. That's the reason. The astrological energy keeps recirculating differently. It's never really the same, but you get the same basic energy. And the same basic energy says it's time to chop wood. It's time to get down to the boring business. Maybe it's time to be like the Amish. If we want to be free and independent, if we want to have any kind of self determination at all. Let's go to the astrology. We begin with the Eight of Swords. You see this gal in the Eight of Swords, surrounded by 8 swords. Swords are truth, data, information. Generally considered accurate, but sometimes misleading, but generally accurate. She's surrounded by these 8 true things, and she can't see them. She's blindfolded. She's tied up. All of that is self-imposed. She could set herself free anytime she wants. The swords are not stopping her or threatening her in any way, but she doesn't want to do it. However, she is standing in a little stream, and water always in tarot means intuition. She knows what the truth is. She knows she's lying to herself. She knows she's handing herself bullshit. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Keep the lie. I'm more comfortable with the lie. That's what I'm used to. Remember I said going into 1940 we were set up for constant chaos by the bankers? She's a product of that. She's used to hurting. She's used to being in the dark. She's used to being lied to, taken advantage of. She didn't want to give that up. Second card is the Seven of Pentacles, reevaluating the progress so far, our value system. We pay a lot of lip service to them. American democracy and American this and American that. And we don't pay a shit any of it. None of it holds up. None of it holds up. And yet, like that Eight of Swords, we're blinded to it. We blind ourselves. We close off. We say, no, 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 I don't want to know the truth. Nah, 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 nah. But we're only hurting ourselves. So the Eight of Swords says, take off the blindfolds, take a look at what's really happening. Seven of Pentacles says, reevaluate everything that you think is true for comfort's sake. And the third card is Strength. It's Major Arcana, means control. Not just control outside, but control inside, self-control. Deciding that, yes, it is important to chop the wood. It is important to get to the boring stuff because that's the essential. And it is essential with all of that to rearrange our value system because it's not working. And to be honest enough, adult enough, responsible enough to face up to that. Take off the blindfold. Take a reevaluation of your morals, and then have the strength to fix it all, to chop wood. That's it for today. We're out of time. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You are the reason I do this, and I thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. So that's it. Please remember, like and subscribe. It is essential. There is stuff going on behind the internet that you would not believe unless you're a podcaster. But it's all being rigged even more. So please help us out. Like and support, subscribe. Between now and the next time you and I get together to do tarot, peace and blessings.